Thank you. I never get that kind of reaction before. I'm Mike Gonzalez. I'm the VP of Communications here at Heritage. Welcome. And it is my pleasure to welcome Ann Coulter to the Heritage Foundation. She's the author of 7 New York Times bestsellers and a new one out right now called Demonic. It's very funny. It's my colleagues know when I'm reading one of her columns because I'm laughing out loud like a madman in my office. But it's more. Ann is more than funny. You know, she is witty and clever. She's courageous. She tackles issues that many will not. She stands up for her beliefs where others will waffle. And that's because she has deep convictions. She understands conservatism. There are many of us here, obviously, but in the audience somewhere, I don't see them right now, I want to recognize two people. Former Attorney General Ed Meese, who's Ronald Reagan Distinguished Fellow in Public Policy and Chairman of the Center of Legal Studies here at the Heritage Foundation, Vice President. And one more, M. Stan Evans. Stan, are you here? He hasn't made it in yet. He told me he was coming. He is the author of the Sharon Statement, and he really wanted to come, and I'm thinking he will make it. And the reason I'm recognizing them is because they are conservative icons. They are lions of traditional values, and Ann Coulter is another iconic figure of conservatism. Please, she will make remarks now, but she'll take questions from you. Afterwards, she will sign. I asked that, unfortunately, we may not have time for pictures, so let's do the signing first, and then afterward, if there's time, she will take pictures with you if there's time. Ann, would you like to answer the questions?
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. I really wanted to speak after the book signing because it turns out they are serving beer and wine, and the ideal audience for me are right-wingers, a little liquored up. And I don't have prepared remarks because I just had a book come out. I never imagined, you look ahead to when your book is coming out, who else has a book, who will you be competing with on Amazon, on the list. I never in a million years imagined I would be competing with something called Wienergate. But at least, unlike Anthony Weiner, you can tell if I'm happy even when I'm standing behind a podium. I assume you have all had a chance to read some of my book or see one of my 8 million interviews in the last 10 days, but I'll just quickly say demonic is a description of the mob. Mobs are always demonic, and demons are always mobs. And I describe the Democratic Party and liberalism as a mob, starting with the French Revolution, a revolt of the mob. It's been that way for 200 years, and in the process of writing this book, I suddenly understand liberals in a way I never did before. I consider myself something of an expert on liberals. But there were a few things that always confused me. For example, some of them, Paul Krugman, Frank Rich, Jonathan Alter. They must be smart, or at least they did well on their SAT test, because they all went to very good colleges, and yet they seem so stupid. And that is explained as crowd psychology. Gustave Le Bon, the father of groupthink, says that people in a crowd will lose some of their intelligence, no matter how educated they are. They'll grasp onto conspiracies. They'll grab messiahs, turn their opponents into enemies. Just every point of groupthink. This is just the mob psychology part. Beautifully describes liberals, and not in a way that I think you can turn around and say the same thing about conservatives. That's all I'll say about the book right now, because you are all getting a copy tonight. But I'd love to take questions, because then I don't need prepared remarks.
Right here, sir.
Why did you go on The View with the skunk?
Actually, I love The View. I've been on 4 times. They've been lovely to me. We've had a great time every time except one. That was the penultimate time when they all yelled at me. And I'd have to wait for a pause just to get something out. And that was the only time Barbara Walters was on the show. So by process of elimination, I think the rest of them are lovely girls. Actually, I mean, it's been kind of weird, this book tour, because usually instantly liberals fixate on some small, pointless joke in my book. twist it around, turn it into the thesis of the entire book, and that's the only thing I talk about for the next month, which gets really tedious in radio interviews. And for the first time, I'm actually being asked about the book, which on one hand is great. You spend all this time researching and writing a book. It's nice to be able to talk about it. On the other hand, I'm really worried that without a massive cat fight, my book sales will suffer.
So right there in the blue shirt.
Since looks like your boy Chris Christie isn't running, who's next?
Well, I would like to say that if my boy Chris Christie does not run, he will go from being my love to my enemy for life. I'm now designing my parachute so I can dive into the governor's mansion and persuade him he's going to run, and I really do think he should run, for one thing, because the country needs him. I think he is head and shoulders above the other candidates, who are fantastic. One thing it's worth noting, every single Republican in the debate Monday night is better than John McCain. So it's not that I intensely dislike any of the other candidates, but we're running against an incumbent. We have the whole mainstream media against us. You need a star. Christie also won a governorship in one of the most left-wing states in the union. I was shocked when he won. I would have lost bets on that. I don't think it's a guarantee that he'll win re-election, so you'll be a loser the next time you run, or if you're planning on running for president in 6 years. And thirdly, we have an amazing Republican farm team coming up, that Ken Cuccinelli, the Attorney General of Virginia, if he runs for governor, he is like Chris Christie. He's stunningly articulate, which is something for a Republican, since our candidates usually can't put two sentences together, and yet we win. So if we could get one who could talk, whoa, that would be something. You got Chris Kobach, the Attorney General of Kansas. If he runs for governor, same thing. Marco Rubio is turning out to be a fantastic senator. Alan West, if he goes back to Florida and runs for governor, he could run for president. So we have all this amazing talent, and it's not going to be a cakewalk for Chris Christie in 6 years, particularly because I will be his sworn enemy if he doesn't run this time.
So right there.
How tall are you, Ann? I'm 6'6".
I think it's about 8'7", give or take.
Ma'am, right there with the glasses.
Hi, Ann. How you doing? So wonderful to see you. Thanks. Newt Gingrich said something the other night that I thought was really important, and I'm wondering if you'll speak about it, or some, Mary Catherine Ham, any other people, about the Senate races, the congressional races.
Right.
Really get a huge point, and I'm hoping that as we watch O'Reilly or any of these other shows, we'll hear you and other people remind people about that.
Yeah, this should be, and we're counting on the Heritage Foundation, this should be, and all you Capitol Hill kids, this should be a good year for the Republicans in the Senate. Unfortunately, in 2010, we had a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of anger about Obamacare, but it was just the luck of the draw. We didn't have good Senate seats up. Even though the Democrats hold a vast, 60, 70%, or held 60 or 70% of the Senate, it was about 50-50 Republicans and Democrats up. The Democrats who were up for election, like Barbara Boxer, they were in solidly blue states. They weren't going to lose, so we didn't have many opportunities in the last election to pick up Senate seats. But that changes next year, and it changes 3 years from now. Those are two fantastic years to pick up seats in the Senate for Republicans, and I don't know how Republicans are going to blow it. I'm sure they'll come up with something, and it's your job to stop them.
There was somebody here. I just wanted to add that we are conservative, of course, but nonpartisan.
Thank you very much for coming today, first of all, Ann. And do you think the liberals, and I'm serious about this, have a clue about the spiritual component to why conservatives are loathed? I mean, you don't have to like our policies, but it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
Yes, though that's covered more extensively in my book about 3 books back, Godless, The Church of Liberalism, and I think that explains why you do see all of the mob psychology characteristics on the left, and you really don't see it among right-wingers, you really don't see it among Republicans, and we know from the polls that most Republicans believe in God, most Democrats don't, and the ones who even claim they do are running for office and they're lying. And if you believe in God, it's a vertical relationship. It's you and God. You don't have to care what people say in the crowd around you. And in fact, Christians kind of like to be hated because Christ said we would be.